Men are lonelier than ever before. You can feel it everywhere. Scroll through any comment section, and every joke drips with this pain, this black pill despair, or even just a numbed out detachment from reality. No real friends, no girlfriend, no marriage, no kids, no mission, just survival. And I've been there, exactly in that same place, rejected over and over again, watching time just move on while I sat still. I refused to compromise my morals or God's will for my life, but that choice made the silence even louder. Every year the clock ticked, and I wondered if maybe this was just my story, that I was just going to be alone forever. And it's not only about relationships, it's about meaning. Because even if you had people around you, without purpose it still feels hollow. But loneliness doesn't end by accident. It doesn't fade because you distract yourself enough. It breaks when you step into something bigger than yourself, something eternal. And if we look around, men and women aren't just different anymore, they're divided. In the US, young women are leaning further and further left, while young men are drifting further and further right. And I'll have a little chart up, and this graph isn't even that old, by the way. This is I think it's like a year old, and some people dispute how true it is, but I look at this and I see just 100% reflection of what we see in the real world. Like the US, you can see clearly there's a widening gap there. And then South Korea is going off the literal chart here, which well done, South Korea. Whatever you're doing, whatever South Korea is doing for the guys, we need to take some notes. Every other country in the world, anyways, not related. But point being is what we're seeing is this massive polarization between men and women, even ideologically. Right? We're in two completely different worlds. And when that happens, men start to wonder where they even fit. The roles that once gave us dignity, being a provider, a protector, a leader, are now called toxic. And if culture keeps saying you're dangerous or unnecessary, eventually you start to believe it. And then add the economics, the skyrocketing rent or cost to buy a house, delayed marriage, unstable jobs, the old paths to purpose, this idea that if you just had home or work or a family, feel entirely blocked off. So guys retreat into gaming, into porn or adult content, into endless scrolling, or maybe this idea that if they had a job that paid them enough and paid the bills, then they wouldn't have to worry anymore. And unfortunately, the few spaces left for men often feed anger instead of healing. Culture keeps preaching you're the problem, and sometimes even churches echo this, unfortunately. But Jesus didn't come into the world to shame men. He came to redeem them, and women too. But point being is he came to redeem them, to restore their strength and give them mission again. And when I think about all this, I'm reminded of Elijah in the Old Testament in, I think it's 1 Kings 19 or somewhere around there. And he had just called down fire from heaven. He literally watched God prove himself in front of an entire nation. And moments later, he's running for his life. Jezebel wants him dead. He collapses under a tree, and you see, he prays, "It's enough, Lord, just take my life." Right? And I'll have it up on the screen here, but it's 1 Kings 19, verse 4. And when I read that, I think that's what burnout truly looks like. And I think so many of us are feeling that today, right? And I'm mostly speaking to men, probably even like age 20 to like 35, probably even older than that, dude. I think a lot of us are feeling this. But you look at that story with Elijah, and if you read the whole thing, he did everything right, and he still ended up alone. He said, "I'm the only one left. Everyone else has been killed." He's literally saying this to God. And that line just hits different because I think that's exactly how modern men feel today. You can win battles, stay faithful, keep fighting, and still feel totally invisible. But God doesn't meet Elijah with fire this time. He doesn't shout from the sky or do something, extremely epic like we read about everywhere else in the Old Testament. Instead, he whispers in this gentle voice and says, "You're not alone. I still have 7,000 men who haven't bowed to Baal." And for those of you who don't know Baal, make a long story short here, fake god that Israel was worshiping at the time, and just no good, right? Just wasn't good. They shouldn't have been doing that. And you see that throughout the Old Testament. But anyways, not to derail the topic. The point of that is that whisper is what I think every man needs to hear today, that you're not the only one holding the line. You're not the only one resisting compromise. God still has men in this world who haven't bowed, and he's still calling you to a mission just like Elijah. And you're not done yet. Your exhaustion isn't the end of your story, it's the setup for renewal. And I think the enemy wants to make you think that you are the only one, that you're totally isolated. Like the darkness in this world wants you to believe that there's no one out there who's also struggling the same way that you are. Because if it's just you by yourself, then you feel weak. You feel pathetic. You feel like you have no mission. But when you know, even just have some glimmer of hope that there are other men going through the exact same thing as you, and that becomes clear, all of a sudden that mission actually makes sense. And that leads me to this point that most men hear, the word church or just church in general, and they think, okay, attendance, sit, sing, and then leave. But attendance doesn't kill loneliness. Mission does. And I say this because I'm a 27-year-old guy. I say this a lot in my other videos, but I'm the only guy in my late 20s, or really I think in my 20s really, that serves in my church's youth ministry, in any way. There's no other guy my age that I know even really volunteers at my church, and I could just be an outlier, but the point being is that screams to me that there's something wrong. And I don't think it's because other guys don't care. I think it's because so many guys don't feel equipped. They think that they're too broken, they're too busy, they're too inexperienced, but God doesn't call the equipped. He equips the called. I mean, look at Jesus and how he recruited these just normal, everyday fishermen. These weren't the highest IQ people in the world at that time. They were far from it. They were very much kind of broken, very lowly, not impressive by any means. And yet he turned a few fishermen into these mighty men who went forth into the world and created, the church as we see it today, in huge part because of Jesus, obviously. But the point is, God uses even the most broken among us to do great things. And in saying that, we need to understand that wisdom doesn't come from avoiding failure. It comes from stepping into the unknown with a willingness to help other people, with a heart to help other people. Every man who's ever changed the world started afraid. But when you step into serving, God shapes you in the fire. And here's the deeper spiritual layer to all of this. When men forget they're sons of God first, they try to fill that void with status, politics, or performance. And those things never really satisfy you. I think all of us kind of know that. They just dig the hole deeper. And the world tries to preach this counterfeit gospel of, women don't need men, men are obsolete, and both are obviously total lies, and both cut us off from God's design. But the gospel restores identity. Your worth isn't in what you do, it's in who you are. A son, a servant, a soldier in a kingdom that never fades. And that identity fuels connection and belonging far deeper than anything the world can offer. Loneliness isn't just emotional, it's spiritual. God made men to be needed, to cultivate, to protect and build. When culture calls that unnecessary, men lose their bearings. This sort of gender divide only widens it. Women are told independence equals strength. Men are told dependence equals weakness. Women feel they don't need. Men feel they're not needed. And that's why this loneliness hits harder for us, I think. But God flips that lie. He says, your worth isn't in being needed by others. It's in being known by Him. And when that truth finally sinks in, your mission is no longer about proving yourself. It's about partnering with God and what He's already doing. Men don't just need company, they need calling. A mission gives direction. A mission demands sacrifice. And sacrifice opens the door to meaning, which is what every single one of us wants. Evangelism and discipleship, that's the heart of it. Leading someone to Jesus is the highest form of providing and protecting them there is. It's spiritual fatherhood. And in saying this, understand your voice matters. You might never preach on a stage, but your story can rescue someone else from despair. There's a man right now feeling exactly what Elijah felt, this sort of, I'm the only one left. And you might even be that guy watching this video. And to you watching this video, to any of you, like you might be the whisper that God uses to reach that guy. It might even be me. It might be even me making this video saying, you're not the only one left, dude. There are so many of us. There's a lot of us. And even if that is you, you could still be that for other dudes who feel that way, who feel like they're the only one. Because let's be honest, I think all of us go through it in some way or another. And I think of Romans 10:15 when it says, how beautiful are the feet of those who bring good news. And that's not just poetic fluff. That's your battle cry, your mission, this sort of call to step out of the shadows and take the risk. Because growth never happens in safety, it happens in obedience. And I know that not every church gets this right. Some have turned faith into performance or entertainment. Some guilt trip men and shame them instead of guiding them. But there are churches that do get it right, that forge brotherhood, that raise up warriors and send men out into the world far stronger than they previously were. And if that's true, and there are churches that get this right, you need to find that church, find that community, and fight for that. Don't settle for the crowds that just clap on Sundays and disappear by Monday. Find men who will stand beside you with swords drawn, spiritually, not really, although swords are cool, but swords drawn and eyes fixed on eternity. Because loneliness doesn't end when you find a girlfriend or a wife or land that dream job. Those things can help for a time, but they can't heal the root of the problem. Loneliness ends when you step into mission. And when you realize your story, your pain, and your faithfulness, all of those things are weapons God wants to use to free other people. And most of all, it ends when you walk with Jesus, the only man who was truly forsaken so you would never be. And I kind of wanted to take a moment in this video and just kind of go off, by script here and just talk raw and be honest here. I think something that a lot of us need to understand, especially older 20-year-old dudes, even younger 30s or even late 30s guys, or any age guys, there's a lot of men who are struggling. And I think obviously we all kind of know that. But in saying that, okay, they need you. Even if you're broken, even if you're not perfect, even if you don't have all the answers in your life or you're struggling yourself, maybe you're even one of these guys that I talked about. You can choose to still make someone else's life better. You could still choose to be kind and friendly to people even when you're struggling, even when there's a huge burden on your back, because that's what I think separates good men from bad men, right? Good men will still choose to be kind to people even if they're suffering, even if they're carrying a huge weight on their back that no one sees. And that's definitely much easier to talk about than it is to actually practice. But I say this especially to younger dudes, like the church especially needs you, and it needs you in more than just Sunday. Sunday is very good. It's a very good day to go to church, obviously, and that's a good thing to do. But the world and your communities and your families and your friends and everyone around you needs you on more than just Sunday. God wants you on Sunday, but God also wants you in other people's lives Monday through Saturday too. And I think a lot of times we forget that, and we think that Sunday is really all that there is. That's the only mark of evidence that like, oh yeah, I'm going to church and I'm doing all these things. But you should be involved in people's lives, in your everyday conversation, like, hey, this is what Jesus did for me. And maybe you're a guy who's like, I haven't had an experience with Jesus. I don't even know why I should care. Like, none of it matters. None of it's going to change. You're probably watching this video and you're like, this is just some more religious nonsense. Why do I need to stick around here for any of this stupid stuff that I don't believe in? And if that is you, I'd ask you to consider, well, then what else is there? I mean, what else is there? The world's crumbling around us. We see it. And I don't mean that in like a dystopian way. I mean, culturally, the world needs us to follow Jesus now more than ever. Following ourselves doesn't work. We all see that. It doesn't do anything. And that loneliness can really only go away when you're willing to trust Jesus with your life and stop trusting yourself. Stop looking to yourself and everything and thinking, oh yeah, I can get myself out of this. I can save myself. If I just do enough good things, if I just measure up enough, if I just look good enough in the eyes of the world around me, all of a sudden the pain and the guilt and the loneliness that I carry will just go away. And I promise you it won't. It will only get worse. There are thousands upon thousands of men that need any encouragement at all. Just any. And I know that every single one of you in this video knows a guy. Maybe you're even one of them. I'm repeating myself a lot, but it's important. There are plenty of dudes for you to pour your heart out into. They need you now more than ever, and you can do that. You're not too far broken. You're not too far gone. If you trust in Jesus and everything in your life, you are not too far gone. You can do all the things that he wants you to do if you trust in him. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for sticking around for the whole thing. Hopefully you watched the whole thing. If you could please just smash the like button, leave a comment, subscribe. Let me know what you thought down below. Share the video with a friend. I'd be super thankful. And as always, God bless.